Hi there. This is your resident idiot again. I'm going to give you some advice, or not advice, but this is going to be a video on how to thread any industrial sewing machine. Okay? They all have the same principle on operation. You just have to understand what that operation is. But I'm going to do a double needle machine, because if you could understand how to thread a double needle machine, a single needle machine will be that much easier. Since I got the camera pointed at the bobbin cases down there, I'm going to show you how to load a bobbin on these. Okay, we're going to load this one first. What you need to do is you take your bobbin here in your hand, like so, okay, and you want to, this is where the thread, right down here at the bottom of the bobbin case, you can see the little channel there to where the thread's going to go, okay? So the thread's going to go towards the machine that way, right? When you load the bobbin on the right side, you want the thread on the bottom, just like so. Let me get it in the picture here. Okay, you want it to come out the bottom away from the needle. You see how it's coming out the bottom of the bobbin right there? You want it to come away from the needle. So you put it in the bobbin holder like this, and how it's away from the needle. And then when you do this, okay, you see how it's turning in the opposite direction? When I pull on the thread, you see that? That's what you want. Okay, this one is loaded correctly. The other side, the left side, is going to be opposite. Okay, you want the top of the, now you're looking at the top of the bobbin, and see I'll have it pointed towards the needle. You don't want that. So what you have to do is you got to flip your bobbin over like this, and now you see how the top is pointing away from the needle, because you can see the slot right there where the thread's going to go. That's going to be towards the top. So you got the top of the bobbin, you're pointing that away from the needle. Okay. Let me get that opened up. Oh, get it. There we go. Again, the top of the bobbin away from the needle. On the left side, drop it in there like so. And again, when I pull on it, you can see how it's turning in the opposite direction. That's what we want. So that's how you load the bobbins on a double needle sewing machine. Okay, now we're going to go to the meat of the subject here. Hang on. Okay, here's your typical double needle tension regulator setup we have here. Now, every industrial sewing machine that you see, and most people own, they have all these holes right here, okay, inside here. Let me pick you up. See the holes? Okay, and then same thing there. See those holes there? Okay, yeah. Okay, they all have those. And everybody thinks that you need to put the threads in all the holes. No. The reason why these holes are here is that these were set up for high-speed sewing, okay? And what was happening when they were sewing at 4,000 stitches a minute, 5,000 stitches a minute, okay? The thread would bounce, okay? It would bounce if they only had like one hole, and it would get tangled up in that hole and knot up, and then that would cause an instant snap in the thread because of the tension and stuff and the speed that it goes through. When these machines were sewing at 5,000 RPMs, which is 5,000 stitches per minute, the stitch length was regulated to 5.5 inches or 5.5 stitches per inch. Okay, you got 5.5 stitches per inch. 5,000 RPMs. That would give you, was it 909 inches of fabric that would be sewn through this machine in 1 minute, which is basically 76 feet of fabric. So can you imagine having this thread going through here at 75 feet per minute going through these thread things, okay? So they had to add these extra holes to loop the thread to keep the thread from bouncing off the tension regulator, okay? The thread would be bouncing off going this way or bounce off going this way. Okay, so they added these 3 holes and the extra holes up here on the post right there to add a pre-tension before it got to here. That way it kept the thread from falling off the tension regulator. Okay, now these come into the homes. Okay, these machines left the factories. Now they're going to be used in the home use. Nobody, I don't care how good of a seamstress you are, how good of a sewer you are, ever what you want to call yourself. I call myself the sewing idiot. You're not going to be able to control your fabric sewing that fast of fabric. Okay, you can't. You're not going to be able to control your anything. Okay, it's just going to fly out of your hands. So these machines are slowed down to the standard. I don't know how many stitches per minute that average domestic sewing machine sew, but it ain't nowhere near 5,000. So when you thread the machine, going through all those holes and sewing as slow as you do, what's going to happen is that the thread's going to get caught up a little bit down, coming off your spool, okay? Well, that little bit of tension is going to be magnified because now you're going through the 2 holes up here. You see the 2 holes up there, and then it's going to be looped around the 3 holes here before it gets to your tension regulator right there. And that's gonna cause the tension to almost double if you just have a little bit of a snag on your spool. Cause thread breakage and everything else like that. So what you want to do is when you thread these, you want to go through the least amount of holes as possible. The less contact the thread has with the thread guides, the more even your stitch length will be, and the more even your tension would be. Okay, it's just for neater stitches. So I'm going to show you how you thread an industrial sewing machine. If you do it by the book has to do it like it's an industrial setting. So the book's going to be wrong. Okay, that's not set up for home use. So we're going to set this up for home use. The number one factor you got to remember, think about when you're sewing these things, is 90 degrees. Okay, I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to take a thread hanging here, and I'm going to come down here, and this right there is the closest hole to the bottom tension regulator. Okay, see how it's coming down? I should use a bigger thicker thread. Okay, and then when it comes through here, okay, through your tension regulator, then it's going to go over here. Now you see the angle of the thread? You can see it's not even 90 degrees, right? It's almost like 180 degrees. What's going to happen to this thread, it's going to work its way off the tension regulator just like this, okay? As you're sewing, it's going to pop off the thing. Unless you add all of these pre-tension things, and when you do that, the thread is going to break. You're going to have uneven stitches when you have it set up with all the holes like that. So there is, since on this machine, since we have two regulators, and this happens to be in line, both these regulators are in line with each other, so these guidelines are in line. What I do with my machine, with this particular one, it might be different with other industrial machines. Again, you got to remember the 90 degrees, right? So I'm going to use the bottom regulator, because you think that you would use the bottom regulator or the bottom thread guide for this regulator and the top one for this. But you do that, you can't get your 90 degrees. So this one, I'm going to come out of this hole right here. Okay, maybe. Okay, come on out of there. Okay, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to loop it around the tension regulator like that, and then up through your tension controller, and it snaps until it snaps in there, right? Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and continue threading this until I get to the needle. Okay. See how it got to the, you see how the thread path is right now? You can see it where it goes through here. It goes around this over here. Down, you can see where it comes, exit right down through there and through your tension regulator. And I'm going to go up to the guide, and I'm going to use the top hole right here in my pickup tube. There's two holes up there. There's a top hole right up there. Okay. Okay. Down through the guide again, making sure I'm not crossing any threads. Okay, pull it on through. And you could tell that if it's going to work, being I have you can see how I'm pulling it through and there's no tension on the disc. And as long as I'm pulling it through and the thread's not going to come off the tension regulator, it's good to go. I never use this guide. You can, I don't know. Okay. Then I put it behind the my thread lubricator through this guide. Let me go. Oops, let me go down here. There we go. Through this guide here, we're going to use the outboard needle. And then when we thread it, we're going to thread it from the middle going out. You always want to thread the needle towards the hook. Not away from the hook, but towards the hook. There we go. Okay, so that needle is thread. Okay. Now we're going to take the other one. Okay, we're going to start again. Take the other thread. Where'd it go? Okay, then we go through the bottom hole with this other string thread. Go through the bottom hole here. And again, the reason I do this is because I want to keep the threads off the body of the machine as possible. I don't want it to rub it on anything that it doesn't have to rub on. Okay? And then I'm going to go to the top guide up here. Go through the top hole. I'll bring you in closer here in a bit. Okay. Now I'm going to bring it down through the regulator like this. This is the most angle I could get, because this is the furthest of the angle. See the angle between the relationship and the stud and the hole there? Okay. And then I'm going to come up through your tension coordinator. Raise it until it clicks over that little snap there. Then I'm going to come up to the bottom of this guide. Okay. And then I'm going to use the bottom hole on my pickup arm, and I'm going to go to the inside hook or needle. Okay. Go back down to the same guide. Make sure I'm not tangling up any threads. You don't want anything tangled up. Okay. Go through my oiler. And where's my zoomer at? There we go. Go through that hole right there in that guide. And now I'm pulling on the needle, on the thread. Let me tilt you back here. And you see when I pull it, how it's not coming off the tension regulator when there's no tension? That's good. Okay. And then through my needle. Okay, through the needle. There we go. Now, if everything works right, it never does when you're filming anything, I should be able to pick up both threads. Let's zoom in and let's see if I did this right. Okay. There we go. Let me turn the needle. Now, you see how I had the threads perfectly across the bottom? You know, this thing is perfectly timed when that happens. Okay? And then it picks up the threads. And there's the threads right there. Okay, bring these down and go through the loops and bring out the bobbin threads. Oh, together if you can, but okay. Let me get these covers on. And we're going to talk about something else up here in a minute here really quick. Let me get these plates on where they belong. I just painted this thing just about few days ago, so I'm trying not to use my fingernails to scratch any of the clear coating stuff yet. Not, and everything's super oily because there we go. Now that we got it threaded, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is that thing right there. Okay, what in the world does that do? And how do you adjust it? Ouch. You see where this shaft comes out? You see where the tip, where the thread comes out, where this is, you know, this is sitting on a stop, right? The spring is sitting on a stop. You want where the threads come out contact, you want it even with the shaft, okay? What this does, okay, the purpose of this tension controller is, okay, I'm going to come up, we're going to start a stitch, okay, and I'm going to tell you what's happening, okay. Right now you can see that we're making a stitch there, but you can see there's tension on the thread, okay. The pickup arm is still moving up, and we still have full spring pressure on the thread tension controller, and it's keeping that thread tight. You see how it's keeping it tight? Even though the stitch is already being made, the stitch is made, now we got to keep that thread tight as we go down into the fabric again. We still got full spring pressure on your controller, the thread controller, tension controller. Okay, we were penetrating the fabric, and right now we're past where the stitch is made, but we still have tension on this thread right there, okay, on the threads. Okay, as it goes down until it hits dead bottom, okay. And right now we're at bottom dead center, and right now we have zero pressure on the spring up here, okay. Okay, let's see, what could I do here? Oh no, I'll just take the spring out of the picture. There we go. Hang on a minute. Can I do this? I think I can. I know I can. There we go. Now I got the spring totally out of the picture. We'll see what happens. Now you see I lost tension right there. What there's a possibility of doing, if this was sewn at normal speeds instead of the slow speed, the needle has the potential to stab its own thread when it gets to the bottom. Okay. See, like right there, you see that? It has a subtle effect on it, but you can see where the thread jumps right there. You know, there's a possibility that it could just stab itself, and then you'll have a knot down there. And that's the purpose of it, is to keep tension on it until the very bottom of the travel, to keep the thread away from the point of the needle. And that's the purpose of that little spring. If the spring is set too low, you'll have constant pressure on your thread, okay? And when that happens, okay, you will lose that loop. Rotary hook grabs the loop in that thread, okay? If this spring is set too low, if it's set too high, then the effect would be what you just saw right there, to where the thread lost all of its tension right before it entered the fabric, and then it would have a possibility of stabbing itself, of the thread, of the needle stabbing its own thread before the pickup tube would, or before the pickup arm or hook would capture it. Okay, so now let me put my thread and stuff back together here. Then I'm gonna film this so I could there we go. Cut that fabric out. Now we can see it all in action here. We could watch this, watch the needle, watch the thread coming around here. You can see how it happens all in relation. Okay, you can see the hook coming around the bobbin. Okay, let me zoom out so you can see the pickup arm. I should, but I can't use a thicker thread because this machine isn't set up for that. Okay, but hopefully we could see it. I'll do it a couple more times slow so you can see the relationship between the pickup arm, the thread controller, the thread tension being wrapped around the bobbin. You see how it all works in unison. Now if you do it normal speed, that's what it would look like. So one more time slow. There you have it. It's how you thread an industrial sewing machine. Any sewing machine. You don't need the manual. Just understand how and why everything works. Now if you look at my FOF, I had my thread coming through my thread lubricator. Always, industrial sewing machines always use thread lubricators. Okay. As you can see, it comes through this guide, and I have a little pre-tensioner, okay, right there. And it comes down to a 90 degrees, okay. I have no choice. It has to be a 90 degrees because I can't move this thread guide. If I swing it over to move the hole over here, then I'll hit this pickup arm. I can't swing it under because I don't have enough room. If I do that, the pickup arm will hit that. So since it's a pre-tensioner, okay, it's just a little spring right there. That's enough to keep the thread from jumping the tensioner, okay? And the way you could do that is you raise the foot, okay? There we go. Take the tension off. See, there's no tension. And if you pull your thread, and as long as the thread stays on the tensioner, as you could pull it, then you're good to go. If there was going to be a problem, the thread would jump off the thread tension. Okay, so that's one good quick way of doing it. But if you're having problems with the thread coming off your tensioner, that's because your angle is less than 90 degrees. You have to change the angle of attack into your thread tensioner. So that, all the other machines I got, they're all basically set up where they got, one tensioner, one guide, and then the hole is back offset to where the angle is always towards that. Okay. Then on my console here that I use for my binding, I come off this middle hole, and that gives me let me grab the thread here, and you can see the angle of the thread is more than 90 degrees. Okay. But see, I only use one hole there and then one hole there. If I had a problem of this jumping the thread, then I'll use this bottom hole here. But I don't want to use that extreme of a wraparound around this shaft. So this is a perfect setup right there. On my 211, again, one shaft, okay, one hole. I have it looped around here just to keep the thread from flopping around here. So I do have it looped around here, but this right here is a straight hole. So it's actually technically going through one hole, okay? And then I have it looped going up around the top. And then I have it looped on the bottom side of this to make sure I have more than a 90 degree angle. Okay. Now here's a different setup. You're given the choice. You can either use one regulator or you use both. It all depends what you're sewing with. Okay, you don't have to use both regulators. You can just use one. But if you're sewing super heavy fabric, because this is a cylinder arm, then you would have to use two regulators. But most fabrics, I got it set for two regulators. But I got the tension backed off on both of these where there's hardly any tension on them. What I might do is, after doing this video, I'm thinking more of it, I'm just going to use one tension regulator for now. And it will probably be this one right here. And I'll bypass this one. Because I could come down here off this pre-thing, it'll come around, loop around here, and then out here, and that will be okay. Yeah, I think I'll just eliminate this tension regulator. Just won't use it after making this video and looking at it. Okay. So understand what makes, how these work, why they work, what the purpose of everything is. Then you could understand how to thread the machine just by looking at it.